I'm going to start my debate in 3, 2, 1. You create a subjective and fragmented history, and it will lead to another conflict, and call it as peace and development. Judges, here I am going to give why the proposition is very, very flawed, and I'm going to give my own arguments as opposition. The first one is to rebuke. I have 3 rebuttals of the arguments that is already given by the proposition. The first rebuttal is why top-down methods won't be easy to understand and won't relate to people because it's written by the elites. This is very, very wrong on fact and wrong in impact, because Indonesia has their own story that top-down is written by people and for people. In curriculum post-Suharto itself, it is written by teachers, NGOs, and survivors. And I'm going to give 2 cases to support my rebuttals. The first case is in Suharto's New Order textbook that is focused on top-down, on his policies, that showed oil corrupt and leads to 1998 riots and leads to starving, sexual assault, massive racism. And this helps us as the student itself to understand the ordinary or grassroots people's struggles, not to worship the elites. And the second case is post-G30 SPKI. The top-down task spotlights Suharto's army take over and detailed how it kills thousands of peasants in Java Island. So even if some elites involved, the bottom up still fails, because you all know that the tragedy of Gerakan Aceh Merdeka, the Aceh Rebel had this glorifying text that caused fights between ex-rebels and soldiers' kids, because they have their own perspective, they have their own reason, and they have their own experiences. So even ordinary Indonesian itself demanded a top-down, like 1998 students burned victims' only book for balance fact. And this leads us to the second rebuttal, which is principle of justification and validation. There are 2 points of impact that has already been given by the proposition. The first impact is you just get better validation because you feel like your point struggles or worthy to be immortalized to solve the hate that often happens in post-conflict countries that leads to more conflicts, because you're already actually solving that sense of just shame. This is very, very flawed, because it has had a selective poison and shames the rest. For example, in Maluku and Christian Resilience text that shamed Muslims into Ambon riots. Meanwhile, in books, they are blaming Habibie or Wahid for their weak central governments, and it validated everyone. It validated losers on both sides, and it created peace. And in 1965 itself, the underground bottom-up takes crown PKI peasants as innocent martyrs and frames Sukarno's chaotic democracy. Even if it pats some backs, the shame call strikes back harder. Top-down validates the bigger the problem, system rock heals the whole nation. Their validation shame bombs, and top-down diffuses it. And it is impossible to cheer one's fractured achievement as it campaigns you as their puppet, such as the Gerakan Aceh Merdeka. The Aceh government bottom-up text crowned the GAM rebels as people's champ. And as I said before, the ex-military is angry because they have their own perspective. And even if there are cheers from winner, loser bold painting like you are weak. Total legitimacy collapse. Top-down screams, we own every failure, and legitimacy means that endurance powers without proof. And the second impact that is given by the proposition is bottom-up alliance memories, picks better leaders, and develop nation. It unifies memories around ordinary heroes. This is very, very false, because it keeps fights alive. One side's hero is another's killer. For example, Suharto's fell in 1998. Bottom-up books made student protesters big heroes. Top-down books blamed Suharto's top guys from hurting all, and people agreed, and there's peace. The second example is 1965 killings in Java. Bottom-up called PKI folk saint and other are terrorists. And top-down said that Sukarno's mess started it, and folks united. So bottom-up makes conflict worse and vilifies one side, and after war, people already split, right? In Indonesia itself, some strong books and TV series showed that communists looks like they are pure, complete monsters, and it leads to many people hate them, and they blame them, and didn't bring any peace, and kept the fight, the fear and shame going. So even if the intention is to remember the victims, or how one story is given, naturally it's given, naturally vilify the other side and bias history. So top-down is showing how leaders failed everyone, and government made bad choice, and different groups suffered in their own ways, and no one sides are totally erased. So by their own example, by the proposition, they actually proves our side. And that is why proposition pushes bottom up, because they think it empowers the marginalized, that gives voices to victims. We oppose this because in raw and divided societies, bottom up sits grudges and top down shows the big picture of the piece. There are 4 key stakeholders of this motion. The first one is the students, because they read the books daily. So the bottom up confuses them with endless victim stories, and the top down gives clear timelines. The second stakeholder is teacher, because they need simple, unified narrative to deliver to the students. And the third stakeholder is victim survivors, such as families, and bottom up picks oppressed groups. And the fourth is future generation, because they inherit the narratives. And bottom up cause endless blames, and top down cause forward-looking pride. And the stakeholder will lose if we ditch the top down and pro ignores them. This leads us to the argument that I'm going to bring, which is bottom up deepens divisions and risks stability. Post-conflict states, in bottom up historiography reopens wounds by glorifying factions, not healing. Why? Because post-conflicts opens fresh scars. If your history books only show one side of the story, the other side feel erased, attacked, blamed, and cause more conflict. There are 4 points of why do I give this argument. The first point is bottom-up spotlight one group's suffering, ignores how those ordinary folks committed atrocities too. Like kids from loser side will feel ashamed and caused to stop trusting the government and lead to protests and riots and more conflict. The second point is bottom-up history talks about oppression and resistance. For example, people suffered under the cruel regime. Other side look pure villains and collectively blamed. That feeling can push them to reject the peace deal, even pick up the weapons and create another conflict. And bottom-up keep the old enemy's image alive and creates more conflict. The third point is the winner-loser story. In the post-conflict, we as a nation have to move forward together, right? And bottom-up gave this winner-loser story where the children of the winner can feel the pride, meanwhile the children of loser can feel the shame, and it can create hard national unity. And bottom-up history will poison relationships. And this is why top-down history is safer, because top-down looks at leaders, decision, and system, and does not pretend one side is completely innocent and both sides agree. In post-conflict states, history textbooks should not focus on teach bottom-up. And top-down approach with careful intention can protect peace and reduce hatred. Therefore, I am proud to oppose.